Hello, I'm sorry. Hello, guys. It is I, Otakushinsaku, back again for another video reaction. You can probably hear it in my throat. I'm just getting over a cold, so give me a second. My voice is gonna sound really fucked up because I'm just getting over a cold. Like my head, I feel fine mentally. Like I don't have any headaches or anything. I just sound sick. That's just because I'm on the recovery stage, like where your head is fine, but your voice is still fucked up. So don't worry about that. I'm fine, physically fine. I'm just not over a cold. Anyway, um, other than that news, another point of news I want to get into before we get into this video reaction is that I am now regularly streaming on Twitch whenever I play video games. Basically, I don't have a set schedule, so the best way to know when I'm streaming on Twitch is to go to my Twitch channel, follow me, and turn on notifications if you want to know exactly when I'm streaming. Because I don't have a set schedule. Like, I'm not going to tell you that, oh, Monday on this day or Tuesday on this hour I'm streaming. It's basically whenever I'm in the mood to play a video game, and mainly because again, I'm sorry, ADHD, autism, and sickness. That's the point. Is my ADHD and my autism don't allow me to really have a set schedule. I don't have a planner or anything. I just do things as they come. I'm more like ride the wave of life kind of guy. Like, what I'm going to be doing in, like, say, 3 hours from now, I have no fucking idea. Just going with life. Anyway, um, with that being the case, please, if you would, you want to join these sort of things, because I do video reactions live, by the way. I do video reactions live and all that stuff. Basically, all the same content that I do here. I just do it live, and off the cuff. And as you saw with the previous video reaction, the best stuff I can get out of that live stream, I will put up on YouTube. So if you want more of me and you want to interact with me in real time, you want to join my chat and stuff like that, please. I cannot stress this enough. Follow me on Twitch. And if you want to know what my Twitch username is, it's the same everywhere. And if you want to, a direct link to my Twitch, my link tree is in all of my videos. Every video I upload, I always include a link to my link tree, and that is because of the fact that my link tree includes the links to all of my stuff. So please, follow me there. Click on my link tree and follow me and all that good stuff. All of my public socials are in my link tree, all that good stuff. So yeah, right down below in the about section, the description section for this video is my link tree. Click on that and it will give you all of my links, including my Twitch. All right. So, yeah, let's get into this guy. Everything I said, yeah, it sounded like shit because of my fucking sickness, but let's just look at this. Are hardcore gamers playing games wrong?
You know those people who think it's shameful to summon co-op help in Dark Souls and Elden Ring and the like? Those people who won't use certain weapons, certain items, because they think if you use them, you're playing the game wrong, you're not having the real experience. Yeah, what if, and pluck the chicken with me on this one, what if they're playing the game wrong?
It starts.
There's a bug. Do you want to make friends with the bug?
It's Elden Ring. You don't make a lot of friends. It's not usually the point of it.
Okay.
Normally, if you don't know what to do with something, it's a good idea to hit it. You drunk a flask there, that's a heal.
Oh, okay. What? Aha! Best at fighting. I got the bug!
You got your first kill! You see, they're doing really well. Right, there's some bad bastards.
Okay.
I'm gonna whack them.
Alright. And it is not the square button.
Not the square button, no, that's to do a drink. If you just joined us, I'm showing the husband Elden Ring, and they're having their very first go at it. We thought it would be really fun, and you'd all have a relaxing time watching them play it, completely sight unseen.
I lost my horse. Right, this time it's over for these guys.
Yeah, like just charge right at them.
Yeah, okay.
But bear in mind, I've been playing Dynasty Warriors for 2 weeks straight. I've forgotten how to play Elden Ring, which I've not played in over a year. My instinct now is to charge and hack and slash at everything. Oh shit, I've just remembered you don't want to do that in Elden Ring. In today's video, I'm going to argue with all seriousness that this is real gaming, right here.
I sometimes wish we weren't all bound to a single linear chronology. Maybe it's the ADHD talking, but I feel I'd get a lot more sense out of the world if time ticked in stereo. Well, at least, preferably quadraphonic. This thought's occurred to me more and more as I've written more essay-style work. With some of these scripts I'm working on, there are several subtopics that make up the whole subject, each of equal importance and each capable of setting audience expectations in different ways depending on which one I lead off with. Today, I need to summarise the concept of the video game challenge run, but this is not a video about challenge runs per se. I need to mention From Software's games and divisive opinions on player difficulty, but the last bloody thing I want is for you to think I'm wading back into the exhausting old Dark Souls easy mode debate. It's common knowledge that I'm objectively correct on that topic anyway. I also need to establish the question of whether or not one can play a game wrong and what playing wrongly looks like, but I'm doing so only to make a particular and discrete point, because the overall debate isn't the point. Basically, I just don't know where to begin and wish I could give this video 3 introductions at once. Then again, why can't I have 3 intros at once? I'm a modern girl in the big city. I can have it all. I can have it all, can't I, Zilla?
Well, I'm looking at the user manual and it says there's a real high risk of...
Yes, I can have it all.
The warning section is just skull emojis. I don't think we should...
3 intros, 1 mono channel. Let the world of video essays be innovated.
Well, I had a good run. Tell my family I love them.
Elden Ring files always join from beginning and when game situation, but most people will never have spent 5 minutes searching for. However, beloved, yet terrible people divided the correct and doesn't make Elden Ring spray out of your nose with shock. Is there a game You never let me innovate again. Ugh, fine. Boilerplate attention-seeking Dark Souls. Dark Souls. Is there any game, and when I say this I'm including Bloodborne and Elden Ring under the same broad umbrella, as universally beloved yet territorially divided as this long-standing benchmark of Is there a game more liable to spark furious debates on not just how it should be enjoyed, but who should get to enjoy it? Most pointedly, is there another game that offers such a variety?
Yeah, like, I completely agree, and I like the fact that Jim Stephanie Sterling is starting with Dark Souls, because when, years ago, back in my high school days, my friends got me into Dark Souls, or was attempting to get me into Dark Souls. They succeeded. They, were doing the get good meme. And it honestly made me mad because of the fact that they're like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm like, oh, that's oh, the build you have is a bad build. It's like, okay, maybe don't tell me that. Yeah, maybe tell me a bad build when I'm experienced enough in the game to be meta. But when it's like my first literal run of any Dark Souls game, maybe don't tell the new player that the build that they have is a bad build. Let them experiment, because again, keep in mind that quote-unquote bad build wasn't discovered to be a bad build until enough people played the game. So let me experience the game, as if the game had just released and nobody on the internet knows what a good or bad build is. Like, let me experience the game in that context, right? Let me pretend like nobody knows what a good or bad build is, like nobody knows what a meta build is, and just experiment. Because if I have a bad build, let me find that out on my own. And if I care to look it up, I have access to the internet. I have my own independent access to the internet. So if I have a bad build, let me find that out on my own. Right? Like, it's bullshit, honestly, that I have to be told, oh, this is a bad build, you're playing the game wrong. Like, okay, let me find that out, and let me find out the build that I find fun. Even if it's a weak build, I find using that build fun. And if you want me to keep playing these games, let me find my own enjoyment in them. As well as the fact that I am on, when it comes to the infamous question of should Dark Souls have an easy mode, you can always chalk me down as yes, because I don't find anything wrong with a difficulty slider or a difficulty menu in Dark Souls. I legitimately do not find it at all wrong that a future Dark Souls or future Bloodborne game could have a difficulty slider and it messes the game up. We've had other games that use the Soulsborne type of genre, and they do add difficulty sliders to the game, and again, it doesn't break it. I'm mainly talking about the Star Wars Jedi games with Cal Kestis, where those are clearly heavily inspired by Dark Souls, and yet they have a difficulty menu you can pick from, a classic difficulty menu you can pick from, and it doesn't break the game in half, as people are so fearful that it would do with Dark Souls. No. Especially being the fact that we're in a day and age where if you want to play the game on the recommended developer difficulty of the hardest difficulty, you can do that, and the fact that there exists a difficulty slider takes nothing away from you. Because on your Twitch videos, you can literally put in the title that you're playing on the hardest difficulty run. You can, when it comes to achievements, the developers can literally lock achievements to higher difficulties. This has been a thing since forever. Fucking Halo 3, way back in the day when achievements first became a thing on the 360, had achievements locked behind heroic and legendary runs, right? Like, developers can easily do this. You can easily program achievements that can only be unlocked by playing the game from beginning to end on the hardest difficulty and never changing. As soon as the game detects that you've changed the difficulty once, it locks that achievement for you for that run, for that save. And so the developers can easily do this. It's not hard. Achievements are easily programmed to be locked behind difficulty walls. And yet people are afraid that if they add a difficulty menu, a difficulty slider to Dark Souls or Elden Ring, that it will just break the game. And I argue that it won't. I argue that all of your fears and all of your, concerns are just basically built on a pile of wet sand. They're not at all concerns. And if From Software added a difficulty slider to the game, you would quickly find out that I'm actually completely correct, that these things are easily solved with today's technology. Again, you can lock achievements behind hardcore, the more harder difficulties, so that way you can show off to everyone that, oh yeah, I'm a get good player. I played the game on the hardest difficulty, right? And the achievements being locked behind the hardest difficulties that you have to play by yourself. Again, like all these things, like if you want FromSoft to do this, that, or the other, they can do it. So that, for example, if you're worried that, oh, what if someone tells me that they beat Elden Ring 2, but they beat it on the easy difficulty? How would I know that they beat it on the easy difficulty? I know it's so hard to go to their gamer profile, go down to their achievements under Elden Ring 2, and see that the achievements for the heroic and legendary runs, or whatever they call the harder difficulties, are locked, meaning they haven't unlocked them. Meaning, yes, they beat the game, but on the easier difficulties, because the achievements for the harder difficulties are still locked, meaning they haven't done that yet. So it's so hard to do. You know, you could do it on your phone because on your smartphone you have access to Xbox Live, the Xbox Live app, so you can, see your friends on Xbox Live and go through their achievements on your phone. You can get the Steam app and go through Steam achievements. You can go through your friend's Steam achievements on your phone. Like, it is so hard to, in real time, call out your friend for beating Dark Souls or Elden Ring 2 on the easy difficulty. You could do it on your phone. It's so hard. It's so difficult. I know. Trust me, guys. I know. It's so hard. This right here, this is a magical box that is impossible to use. I know it's hard. But, like, yeah, so when it comes to that, like, when it comes to the whole idea of meta builds and, playing games wrong, I hate hardcore players. I fucking hate hardcore players that push their lifestyle on everyone else. Hardcore players are a lot like hardcore players are a lot like PETA. In terms of the fact that, there are vegans and there are vegetarians and vegans who can enjoy their lifestyle and not force it on anyone else. They can accept that their lifestyle is different than the norm and that not everyone is going to enjoy their lifestyle, and they accept that. And then there's PETA, which violently, if need be, pushes their lifestyle on you. And when it comes to hardcore gamers, they do the same thing because of the fact that it's the hardcore gamers who will go to the developers themselves, play these private beta tests inside the developers' HQs themselves. They'll go to they'll go to Blizzard HQ, they'll go to Activision HQ, they'll go to Halo Studios HQ, formerly 343 Studios. They'll go to all these studios and play these exclusive, ultra-private tests so that the game developers can tweak the game to their liking. Which is why games like Halo have fallen off a cliff in terms of how fun they are, because the games are ultra tweaked so that they appeal to the MLG gamers and not casual gamers. Because MLG gamers will say that this gun is overpowered, or that gun, doesn't work, or this combination, should be taken out of the game, when I don't care. Oh, there's a one-shot gun in the game that, like, if you so much as aim anywhere in the same mile as a player, it kills them. I know, it sucks. That game is broken, busted. It needs to be patched. Maybe you should allow that gun to stay in the game because it's fun for us casual users, because of the fact that I don't give a shit. I'm not here playing the game for money. I am never going to play a game in a tournament. I'm never going to play a game for actual money. So, for that being the case, just allow me to have fun. Allow me to have separate rule sets for casual and ranked play. Right? This is why I loved Halo, like Halo 3, because what Bungie did was, in the casual game modes, they had it under regular team deathmatch rule sets, right? They had it under Team Slayer rule sets. But then when you played in ranked, you would notice that the rule set would specifically say MLG Slayer. Meaning the rule sets were tweaked, the maps were tweaked for MLG ranked play. So that the game was fun for both casual and ranked players. Right? I just wish that more games did this, because I really am annoyed that you get on that. For example, this definitely happened with Overwatch 2, where Overwatch 2 has been patched to its bones because of the fact that Blizzard patched the game to more appeal to the hardcore gamers and the Overwatch League, right? And so they tweaked everything, including the heroes' ultimates, because they were broken or busted or whatever. Like, it was annoying that Mercy could just fly in, click her ultimate, and she can res everybody within a set radius of her. that everybody just gets res to 100% health from her ultimate. That was annoying. It was broken. Yeah, but you know what it also was? Fun for us casual gamers. I know you hardcore gamers out there don't give a shit about us casual gamers having fun. You know, I know that you guys are all narcissistic fucking assholes who only care about your own fun and do not give a remote fuck if anyone else is having fun. Because you're willing to take away, you're willing to complain to the developers so that the developers take away what we find fun because you find it broken. Because you can't entertain the idea that a system could be annoying for you as a hardcore gamer, but fun as fuck for a casual gamer. You can't seem to understand that fucking concept. Anyway, let's get back into it.
Of approaches that has such a vocal segment of fans arguing it should only be approached one single way. That latter point has always been peculiar to me when it came to Dark Souls, and that was before Elden Ring gave players more ways to approach any given in-game situation than most people will ever have time to scratch the surface of. However, you will find no shortage of people online telling you the correct way to play Elden Ring, or rather, telling you all of the ways in which you can play Elden Ring incorrectly. To some players, purity of experience is paramount, and to have a pure Elden Ring experience is to take a game with so many weapons, so many spells, so many stats, so many builds, and ruthlessly boil it down to a comparative thimbleful of base elements.
You just want to suck the joy out of everything.
The biggest example of this across the whole of the Soulsborne series would have to be co-op. To the purist, you haven't really played a Soulsborne game if you summon other players to help you. At best, you've played it on easy mode, at worst, you've cheated not only the game, but yourself. Either way, you didn't have a real Elden Ring experience, because you used a feature that Elden Ring has. Yeah, way to not play Elden Ring. And it's not just summoning. You'll find purists scrutinizing every aspect of play to find things that invalidate their idea of authenticity by offending their sense of purity. If you use a weapon the purist deems overpowered, you didn't play Elden Ring. If you use an ability that makes portions of the game significantly easier, you didn't play Elden Ring. If you use entire classes of magic deemed invalid, you didn't play Elden Ring. If you use the Mimics tier, you didn't play Elden Ring. Oh wait, forget just the Mimics tier. I've seen it argued that if you use Spirit Ashes at all, you didn't play Elden Ring. Spirit Ashes. That was what threw into sharp relief for me just what an extreme position the video game purist has, despite years of us all just kind of getting used to people discussing the most pure ways of playing Soulsborne games. That should give you an idea of how long I've been sitting on some of these video subjects as well, considering how soon after Elden Ring came out we had people saying anyone who uses Spirit Ashes is playing the game wrong and having an invalid time. Actually, that doesn't give you an idea of how long I've been sitting on some of these ideas. I got subjects I've been meaning to tackle for about a decade. The Spirit Ash system, where you collect ghostly companions based on monsters and other characters to fight alongside you, is one of Elden Ring's most interesting and coolest features pushed by the developer and given a significant level of focus in the game itself. And yet you have some self-styled fans saying that if you use it, you're not really playing the game. I mean, just speaking for myself, but if I'd worked on Elden Ring, I'd be bloody offended hearing that. Just like summoning, magic, certain weapons, and so much more, Spirit Ashes are a feature of the game, a part of it, something the game quite literally gives you. With that in mind, one has to ask, who's actually playing the game wrong? The player using the tools the game gives them, or the player deliberately refusing those tools to have a harder time than was designed? What if the guy who refuses to use summon signs and solos every boss is actually the one who's never really played Dark Souls?
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, I totally agree again with Jim Stephanie Sterling here that these people are just fucking assholes, and I just want them to go away because of the fact that like they just can't accept anyone else playing the game differently than them, as well as the fact they really can't accept people playing the game with the tools the developers fucking give them. oh, you're playing the game wrong because you're using this feature that the developers themselves spent money, time, and resources to put into the game. Like, how dare you use co-op in a game that spends a significant portion of its tutorial teaching you about co-op? How dare you use Spirit Ashes in a game that spends a significant portion of its tutorial teaching you about Spirit Ashes? It's almost as if the developers are screaming at you how they want you to play the game, and you are ignoring that because you want to show off how hardcore you are. You want to show off how amazing you are at this game because that's all you have. Your life is so insignificant. The only thing, the only claim to fame that you have is that you beat Dark Souls really, really hard. Right? That's all you have. You don't have a family that loves you. You don't have anything else to grab onto in your life other than going up to strangers online, going up to anonymous users online and telling them that you played Dark Souls hardcore. Congratulations, golf clap, fantastic. Now, can you leave the rest of us alone and let us play this video game that we bought with our hard-earned money in the way that we want to, with systems put into the game by the developers? How about that? Maybe that. I mean, I don't know. Just putting that out there.
What is a challenge run? Even if you don't know, the name does a pretty good job of telling you. A challenge run is, in basic and general terms, playing a game with certain limitations in place to make the experience more challenging. You know, a run through a game. That's a challenge. For example, getting through a Final Fantasy game from beginning to end with only the starting equipment, or spending 5 minutes playing Starfield without being violently sick, or finding an original copy of Suikoden that doesn't make blood spray out of your nose with shock at the price tag. Oh, video game humor, am I right? This includes speedrunning, where players compete to finish a game as quickly as possible in accordance to the rules of various categories. Like, you've all seen GDQ, you know what speedrunning is. Recently, I've been watching a fair bit of Punchy. He's a fun little fella who speedruns a lot of Silent Hill, hence my familiarity with his work. And he undertakes other challenges of a more esoteric nature. That is to say, he plays games in ways that no reasonable mind should ever conceive of, let alone attempt, like this recent example, trying to finish Resident Evil 2 with movement restricted to the slight little shuffle Leon and Claire do while aiming a gun. Like, he chooses to do these things. Nobody made him do that. At least I don't think. God, I hope not. Are you alright, Punchy? I know you don't know me, but like, if you need help, like maybe shuffle it in Morse code the next time they force you to do this, we can get you out. Okay, we can get you out of this. Challenge runs can really entail anything, from the simple denial of level ups to playing, I don't know, Res with badges duct taped to your hands. Probably shouldn't give them ideas. In practice though, they all boil down to playing games in ways that aren't strictly intended or encouraged by the game itself, using self-imposed limitations that create an experience to uniquely test the skill of the challenger. In essence, it's playing the game wrong, and it's not wrong to play the game wrong. A challenge run can be pretty awesome. Like, it is awesome that we have this bonkers Bananarama trying to shrug his way through a zombie outbreak. It's awesome that speedrunners can outright break the games they're playing, exploiting glitches, combining features in ways the developers hadn't intended, all in a bid to shave milliseconds off of how fast they can blitz past the entire thing. I consider challenge running an art form in its own right. There's a level of dedication, creativity, skill, and performance that Lord knows I'm not talented enough to pull off. Hell, the only thing I can pull off with any level of skill is pulling off. You know what wouldn't be awesome though? If Punchy decided that anybody who uses the actual walking controls in Resident Evil 2 isn't really playing Resident Evil 2. He did it. Why shouldn't you? Why don't you exclusively use a DDR dance pad to play Devil May Cry? Why aren't you, right now, playing Romance of the Three Kingdoms upside down with a controller bolted to your hands like in that Daniel Radcliffe film and a cucumber up your ass? Because that's how I masturbate. Play Romance of the Three Kingdoms. What? If a speedrunner told you that you haven't actually beaten Dark Souls 3 because you didn't know the exact pixel you needed to stand on in order to glitch through some stairs when a bug man chewed on your face? You might wonder why, after the cucumber up the arse, I violated the rule of escalation by ending the list of hypotheticals with a more realistic scenario. It's because I got overexcited while going back and editing the voiceover file, so I completely forgot I had another hypothetical and just impulsively hit record to start mouthing off some more. And why didn't you just cut and paste the audio file around so that the list escalated, Steph? There's a very good reason for that. I didn't think of it until right now, and I've recorded this ad-lib long enough to have a sunk cost feeling about it.
And with the time I saved just letting the B-roll run, I was able to finish today's Wordle. Thanks, Steph.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no meaningful difference between someone sneering at you for using co-op or picking a weapon they've deemed is too powerful, and a challenge runner sneering at you for leveling up while playing an RPG. Both playing a Soulsborne solo and doing a level 1 run are self-imposed challenges. The game doesn't make you do either. It offers co-op or leveling up as tools intended for the player's benefit. To not pick those tools up is to impose a challenge upon yourself, to perform a challenge run. Not to sound too smug, but this is a killer point.
What the? That werewolf's gone very wrong. The slugs are rude.
Yeah, the slugs are fire. The slugs are fire and the dog is a T-Rex.
I think we really need to start saying this because nobody does, and it's true. The hardcore gaming, solo-only, limited weapon players are not playing the pure, the real, the one true way to play Elden Ring. They're doing a challenge run. They're playing differently, they're playing aberrantly, and anyone claiming otherwise is being pretentious. Not that there's anything wrong with playing differently, I think I've made that clear, but don't be pretentious about it. Don't pretend that you're playing Elden Ring normally by ignoring things like Spirit Ashes, things put into the game that have had the game balanced around them and are intended for players to use. Don't pretend that choosing to make the game harder for yourself, independent of the way that game was designed, is the pure Elden Ring experience, because it is quite objectively not. Developers don't put features into games that they don't want you to use. It's an industry executive's job to waste time and resources on frivolity. A studio is going to put features in for a reason. It's actually really rather silly to claim that using the tools the game gives you is going against the spirit of the game. Imagine being told that you've never played Doom 2 if you've ever used the super shotgun. I mean, I'm sure there's some clown comic out there claiming such gibberish, but they deserve their face laughing uproariously into. Like, you should push your face inside of their head and fill their skull with your own chortles in such a way that mocks not only them, but the very laws of physics they're subject to. It's been normalized by years of the hardcore set dominating the conversation, going on and on about how any player with a problem needs to just get good, which, by the way, if that's your answer when someone does struggle with the game, I'm going to assume you don't know how to play it. But normalized though it is, when you actually stop and think about it, it's a ludicrous assertion that you're not meant to summon in a game that features not just an entire online summoning option with multiple reward systems tied to it, but goes out of its way to offer summonable NPCs for those playing offline. IGN shouldn't be publishing articles about how there's no shame in playing co-op, because even that gives the shaming too much credibility. Despite its position, it still unavoidably feeds the incorrect belief that it's a shameful thing. It's not IGN's fault because, like I said, the shaming has been shamefully normalized, and that's a shame. But no, of course there's no shame in playing Elden Ring co-op, and I can tell you most people who do it aren't ashamed to be playing the game normally. That's the normal thing to do. It's fun. It's cool. It leads to fun and cool experiences. It can enhance the game. It's nice to get help and give it in return, which I think is a big part of the entire point. I've got another video coming specifically about that, but to say it now, I fully believe co-op is part of the very heart of the Soulsborne series. I trust From Software enough to trust that if they didn't want you to use something, it would not put that thing in a game. Bloodborne is a fantastic example of this. When they wanted to make a game about quick aggressive combat in which turtling up behind a shield wasn't the way to play, they designed a game accordingly. The rally system lets you recuperate lost health by quickly dealing damage back out, and the slow healing animation of previous games was replaced by a sub-second HP injection. They made use of a firearm to parry attacks, an essential component of combat, and most importantly of all, they took the shields out. Well, not all of them. Bloodborne actually gives you an extremely terrible shield as a borderline joke item with a description that all but tells you that you're not gonna get away with putting an indomitable slab of iron between you and the enemies and jabbing at the world with a long pointy stick. It does this near the very beginning of the game as well, because the people what made it know what they're doing. You know what FromSoft game doesn't have co-op? Sekiro. See? The devs don't just idly toss entire gameplay systems in on a whim. If it's not meant to be part of the experience, it doesn't go in. Same for any spell, weapon, or gimmick you can think of. Sure, mistakes get made and some items are legitimately OP. Elden Ring patched the Mimic's tier for this very reason, because that's what they do when something goes against the intended spirit of the thing. They make changes so that it doesn't. It's very telling that a number of bosses in Elden Ring look like they were quite pointedly designed to be fought cooperatively. That doesn't strike me as accidental for a developer that put a joke shield in Bloodborne and made a combat system in Sekiro that pretty much has to be engaged with in one particular way. Elden Ring practically screams that it intends for players to fight together in the Radahn boss fight, surrounding you with NPC allies by default in a way that feels quite specifically epic. As far as using allegedly OP gear or anything else that might cheese the game and make things easier, I would argue that not taking advantage of an advantageous situation is the opposite of enjoying a pure Soulsborne experience. Sorry, but these are punishing games that exploit any mistake you make. They take place in merciless worlds where enemies ambush you, traps troll the shit out of you, and mimics exist. At what point does the game encourage you to fight fair? I know the microscopic attention span of pop culture has eradicated Game of Thrones from public consciousness, but I warn you, forget its lessons of putting honor before reason at your peril.
You don't fight with honor.
No. He did.
My experience with the Soulsborne series goes as far back as the original Demon's Souls, which I adored and raged at in equal measure. My first time playing Demon's Souls had a moment that I consider the most instructive I've experienced across the entire series. That moment was the Flame Lurker and the manner in which I defeated him. The Flame Lurker was considered at the time one of Demon's Souls' nastiest bosses. He was fast as hell, maliciously aggressive, and hit with the force of Optimus Prime's oily ejaculate. In short, the Flame Lurker was a cunt. He was also not particularly smart. There was a method of beating him that involved standing behind a certain part of the environment that caused the Lurker's AI to get stuck in such a way that you could safely wail on the big orange bell end and he couldn't hit you back. After getting my tits roasted a few times, I absolutely posted up behind that bit of bone and laughed as I rendered the red-hot silly fucker helpless and impotent. And not only do I not regret it, I think it was a peak Demon's Souls moment. Like tricking that stupid Red Knight into falling down that big hole. The way I looked at it, and continue doing so to this day, is that Souls games use everything at their disposal to punish and humiliate me, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. Why not break the game when you can? The game won't hesitate to break you. And like I say, it was instructive. Standing well out of aggro range of enemies and blasting them with madness fire from the eyeballs was one of the most fun things I did in Elden Ring, and you know, that's a point that blows every other one out of the water, isn't it? Are you having fun with the...
Yeah, like, my friends bring up the fact that when Dark Souls 2 first came out, before it was patched, how lightning was so fun to use because of the fact that before the patch, lightning was basically almost a one-hit kill on many, many enemies, including bosses. And so, yeah, I completely agree with this point, that in Dark Souls and in Demon's Souls and all these games are punishingly hard, especially for a lot of their bosses. So why am I meant to feel wrong? Why am I meant to feel bad when I cheat back? If the NPCs are going to cheat, they're going to do stuff, they're going to hit me with things that should not hit me, like that I'm dodging. I should have enough invincibility frames to dodge this attack, but this enemy's attack was designed in such a way that their attack animation lasts longer than your invincibility frames, because again, the developers know how much invincibility frames you have, so they designed this boss to make invincibility frames basically null and void. So if the developers are willing to break the game in half, why is it wrong for me to do the same in return? Right? If the developers are willing to punish the shit out of you and make bosses that are obscenely hard, then why is it wrong for players like me and James Stephanie Sterling here to post up behind some glitchy piece of texture and, actually win? Oh, you don't like how we won? Suck my fat fucking penis. I don't care. Right? I beat that boss fair and square. The developers had every opportunity to remove that piece of texture, to remove that piece of wall, and they can even do so via a patch. At no point is anyone stopping the developers from patching that piece of wall and getting rid of it. There's literally nothing stopping the developers. The developers could post-patch the game to either get rid of that wall or allow the enemy to know that that wall exists. Basically, they can patch the enemy's pathfinding system so that that boss knows that that wall's there and can get to you, and basically gets rid of that whole strategy to begin with. This has happened many, many times before. This happened most infamously in the Crash Bandicoot remakes, where there was a particular boss where you fought him in a Coliseum, and in the original games you can just post behind this particular part of the Coliseum and not get hit. But in the remake, they allow you to keep doing that, but the game knows that you're doing it, so that as soon as you go to that particular section to try to reuse that strategy, the audience that's in the Coliseum starts throwing objects at you to try to remove you from that section. Because the developers, again, know that you're going to do that, and so they, in their own way, had fun with it. And so there's nothing stopping From Software from doing the same thing, from, maybe adding a trap there, maybe doing whatever. There's literally, the developers have access to the source code of the game. The developers have access to the source code of the game. They have access to all the game's files. There's nothing stopping them right now from coming out with another patch. Because again, these games are still on Steam. And fucking the original Half-Life recently got a patch just last year. So on Steam, there's nothing stopping From Software from patching Dark Souls 2 if they wanted to, into a way that they want to get rid of these exploits. There's literally nothing stopping them. As all From Software has to do is go to their developer profile on Steam, upload the patch, and Steam does its thing. It pushes the patch out to everybody. There is nothing stopping them. It's not as if a game gets old enough, Steam doesn't allow you to patch it anymore. No, again, Steam, like I said, Valve themselves, updated the game that came out in the fucking late 90s with the original Half-Life. There's nothing stopping you from patching Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, etc., etc. So, if these exploits exist, especially with the games being out this long, it's probably because the developers don't give a shit, honestly. That's the only explanation you can come up with, is the developers themselves don't give a shit, because again, if something gets to a point that it goes against their wishes, they'll just patch it. Again, infamously, look at Lightning from Dark Souls 2. Lightning was so bad that in the developer's perspective, they got rid of it. Right? They definitely heavily nerfed it. Whereas that exploit that James Sterling was talking about for that boss hasn't been updated, even though they can. There's nothing stopping. Like, oh, you would say, oh, that was from the original Demon Souls, not the remake. And it's like, yeah, guess what? That original Demon Souls game came out in the PS3. Guess what was on the PS3? The PlayStation Store. Meaning, the infrastructure for patching games through the internet existed on the PS3. Meaning, the original Demon Souls right now can still receive patches. So you can lose me with that shit, right? Like, it's, yeah.
Then no matter what you're doing, you aren't playing it wrong. The overall point is to be entertained, and that's true of all but some highly specific games that have a distinct alternative motive.
Off the button moon, we follow Mr. Spoon Button Moon.
It's the height of arrogance to assume that the way any single one of you plays games is the only real way to play them. To consider your particular build, your particular playstyle, your particular use or refusal of features is the default. This is truer of a game like Elden Ring than many others, not just because the game has so many options to play how you want, but because that game sold millions and millions of copies. And let me break it to the hardcore gamers out there. You're a minority. That's why they call you hardcore, because you're more dedicated than the average. I am willing to bet that more players than not summon help for bosses, and I'd wager big on most of them being savvy enough, tactically inclined enough to use ashes, especially the Mimic's tier. It's what it's there for. Most people who buy these super popular games aren't actually big video game players. If they were, these super popular games would just have niche appeal instead of mainstream success. Like, I've always hung out with people who don't play very many video games, so I can certainly speak with more authority than those who spend all their time with other gamers. The casual player is, by our standards, really bad at video games. They buy a very tiny number of games a year, and don't spend all day every day on them. In fact, those capital G gamers who sneer at games journalists for being bad at games are only really highlighting how much they lack a social frame of reference. Most game journos are at least above average, if we're doing actual averages, because the casual...
Yeah, like, going back to that infamous video of that game journalist it was just showing for Cuphead, in retrospective, that game journalist wasn't bad at playing the game. Because, again, we're laughing and sneering at somebody whose job is, he doesn't review games. I mean, he reviewed a couple of games, sure, but those games are probably games he can actually play. Because, again, just because you can play a game doesn't mean you can play all games. Let's put it this way. My grandmother can play Wii Sports, especially bowling. My grandmother, to this day, has a Wii connected to her TV so that she and her retiree friends can play Wii Sports bowling. Right? To this very day, in 2025. And they can play that. That's a video game. So they're playing a video game. Yet, I guarantee my grandmother could not play Dark Souls. How's that possible? This is a person who could play a video game, so therefore they can play all video games. Ergo, the logic. No. Just because you can play a video game doesn't mean you can play all video games. Even hardcore players know this. Like, there are games that they suck at. Like, there are games that I could take the top pro Elden Ring player and find out that they suck at it. Like, you could take someone who's a pro Elden Ring player who's like literally like someone who is the top Elden Ring player. And I guarantee if I sat them down and put them in a tournament of the world's best players of StarCraft, they would not last. They would not even get past the recruiting stage. Right? They wouldn't even get anywhere near an actual tournament. Like, just the very recruitment matches they would fail at. So let's just stop pretending that gamers have to be good at all games at all times. Because, again, you can have things that you're good at and then things you're just not good at. And it's the same with everybody. And like I said, when it comes to casual gamers, they're not as good at games as you would think. Again, before you laugh at that games journalist for sucking at that Cuphead tutorial, I want you to imagine my 80, almost 90-year-old grandmother playing that Cuphead tutorial and how much worse it would be, right? And let's, because you got to take into everything into context. When it comes to that games journalist and that Cuphead tutorial, how familiar was he with 2D platformers? Like before you start sniggering and laughing and all of that stuff, ask yourself, is this a person who has any experience with 2D platformers? And even then, 2D platformers made in the last 10 years, or at least 10 years of Cuphead, right? So take when Cuphead was released in minus 10 years and ask, has the game journalist played any 2D platformers in the past 10 years of Cuphead? And if the answer is no, then it's no surprise why he released footage like that, right? It's no surprise that that games journalist, who mostly, like that games journalist, 99% of their coverage is not reviews. 99% of their coverage is the financialization of the game's business. This is an accountant. We're talking about an egghead. We're talking about a bean counter. This is a guy who spends all day, every day counting beans for the video game industry and doesn't actually play all that many video games. We're talking about a guy who spends all day, every day in front of a fucking calculator doing accounting work for the games industry. So it's no surprise why a bean counter, basically human calculator, for the games industry as a business. Like, this is a guy who does money math all day, every day, would not be very good at video games. Right? It's the same thing, like because there are different positions in every industry. Like take movies, for example. It'd be like saying, oh my god, I cannot believe this sound rigger made a bad movie. I cannot believe that this sound rigger, the one time they tried to direct, made a bad movie. Like, they're just horrible at directing. Yeah, it's because in every industry there are different positions for everything, right? The bean counter for Hollywood, right? Say you are a accountant, and not just an accountant. You are a 30-year veteran, one of the best accountants for Universal Pictures, right? You are their top accountant. You are their guy who knows how to move money, right? You are one of their top accountants. Now, I ask you, this top accountant who has 30 plus years of experience at Universal Studios, a film studio, how well do you think that they would be at writing and or directing a movie? Probably not well, right? Because we fundamentally, for that example, can somehow understand how someone can have a different skill set even though they're part of the same industry. Same thing with video games. That you can be an accountant for video game press. You can be a professional accountant who does video game journalism about the money flowing through the video games industry and still be bad at video games, because that's not your job. Your job is not to play video games. Your job is to scour all the information sources you have and do the money math and say if a particular video game business is doing well or not in terms of the money math and the accounting. So, yeah, can we please let that journalist go? Can we please let that video just die already and allow people to be bad at video games?
The mainstream player, the player that vastly outnumbers the good gatekeepers, that player is way less practiced, way less skilled.
Oh, I'm fire too now. I'm on fire. I reckon if I can take down one of these slugs, I'll be good for the fire giant.
There we are. You're well versed.
There's a reason for a lot of video games having tutorials that still show you how to look up, down, left and right. I've seen casual players with interest in only 1 or 2 games a year struggle with the language of video game controls. And it's perfectly okay. They don't care. They're having fun. So it doesn't matter. Outside of the really, really little world of hardcore gaming. People are putting games on easy mode, using the most OP stuff they can find and getting help on co-op without giving it so much as a second thought, because how they're doing things doesn't actually matter to them, certainly not as much as it seems to for a niche group of people who've decided their niche way of playing is the default experience, and they get to judge all who don't do as they do. It's not the default experience. It's a challenge run, an arbitrary restriction. It is niche. And that's okay too.
So yeah, we go through there,
Okay.
and then you go deal with this fire giant.
Okay. Where's the... Oh, there it is.
He's just over there.
Okay.
You can bob on your horse if you want to get to him quicker. That'd be a triangle, and then you're up. Oh, and you want to press triangle and then press left on it. And that'll get you a little friend.
Oh, I've got a friend!
Mm-hmm. That's the mimic tier. Apparently you've never really played Demon Souls if you dare use that. But that'll really help you.
Oh, they're better at it than me. They're still standing.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy.
And so you say, the real jerks were you were the jerks all along, gamers. And that is the lesson of today's video. Now Phoenix is gonna have a little crack at that fire giant again, and you can all thank God for me.
You're for it, fella.
Right? I hate this boss because he looks a bit like my evil stepdad. He had the same beard and a face growing out of his tummy.
Right. Oh.
You got further than you did last time.
Right?
Geographically, at least.
That was closer. I'm getting better.
Thank God for you.
Did I get good yet?
But yeah, like, I just completely agree with everything that, like, that, yeah. In the end of this, I just completely agree with James Stephanie Sterling here on everything that was said there, because it's like, yeah, just you hardcore players out there, please just leave us casual regular gamers alone and just let us have fun playing video games. That's it. That's literally it. That's all you have to do is just let us have our fun. And for the game developers out there, it would be nice if you created a committee of casual gamers. Instead of going after exclusively the hardcore gamers, it would be nice if you created a committee of casual gamers. It would be nice if you started recruiting casual gamers for your ultra exclusive, at your headquarters only beta tests for your games. Like, it would be nice if for the next Halo game, instead of just getting MLG players in the building, you got players like me in the building, right? You got players like me who spend pretty much all day, every day playing in the casual, social, as you call it, social matches, rather than ranked, right? It would be nice if you did that, so that gamers like me have a voice in the room, instead of it just exclusively being the MLG gamers. But yeah, with that, I will leave you guys. Please subscribe to not only this channel, but follow me on Twitch, as I said, for future videos and future live streams. And hit the like below if you like this video. Hit the dislike if you disliked it. And all that good stuff. All my links are in the link tree. And I will see you guys next time.